I'd like to call this public meeting to order. Would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Would everyone please remain standing for a moment of silent reflection for our servicemen and women throughout the world, for those who have passed away in our community, and for all of those suffering due to the pandemic. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Schuster?
Present.
Mr. McAndrew?
Present.
Dr. Rothchild?
Here.
Mr. Donahue?
Here.
Mr. Gaughan?
Here. Please dispense with the reading of the minutes.
Third order, 3A, Controller's Report for the month ending April 30th, 2021. 3B, Lackawanna County Planning Commission Subdivision and Land Development Evaluation Report reviewed May 6, 2021. 3C, Minutes of the Non-Uniform Municipal Pension Board meeting held April 21st, 2021. 3D, Agenda for the Non-Uniform Municipal Pension Board meeting held May 19th, 2021. 3E, correspondence received from PennDOT dated May 11th, 2021 regarding safety improvement recommendations.
Are there any comments on any of the third order items? If not, received and filed. Do any council members have any announcements at this time?
I have a quick one. So next Thursday, June 3rd, St. Lucy's Church will have their annual takeout penne pasta dinner. They're going to do it like they did last year. So it's a takeout. So the dinner includes salad, pasta, meatballs, rolls, and dessert. Cost is $10. But you have to pick up the dinners in the back. So it's kind of like a drive-through. Containers will be provided. That's all I have. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yes, I have a comment. On this Memorial Day, May 31st at 12 p.m., VFW Post 25 will have a Memorial Day celebration at the Veterans Memorial Park at Memorial Stadium on Munchak Way.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, I have a few. City Hall will be closed Monday due to the Memorial Day holiday. Next week, recycling and refuse collections will be a day late due to the holiday. DPW is going to be working on next Saturday. So collections will be picked up. Friday's schedule will be picked up on Saturday. I announced this in the caucus, but Carl Deely, our business administrator, and PFM, the city's financial advisor, will be coming to our caucus next week at 5:45 to discuss agenda item 5B. I'd like to take a second to welcome everyone back finally. Our last meeting in these chambers was March 10th, 2020. Then, of course, the country shut down due to the pandemic, and it's been a very difficult journey over the last year for the people of our city, the people of the state of Pennsylvania, and around the country and around the world. Tragically, we lost many loved ones here in Scranton and Lackawanna County, in our state, in our country, and around the world to the virus, and we'll continue to remember them in our prayers. One of the things that stuck out to me over the last year was how we all came together as a community to help one another. It's one of the great characteristics about Scrantonians and about those of us who live in Lackawanna County. And we'll continue to do that. I'm very confident of that. Hopefully we're on the other side of this pandemic. It's been a surreal experience, but we continue to persevere and we continue to move on. Since it's been so long since we've been here, I thought it would be appropriate at this time to go over some important parts of the rules of council. So I just want to take a second to do that. So the first thing I wanted to mention, and you'll notice when you came in tonight, posted on the door were capacity limits for this week. That'll be for this week only. Obviously, we're not going to, I don't believe we'll hit the capacity limit tonight. It's 27 for the ground floor here in Chambers. Those are going to be lifted Memorial Day weekend per the governor's order and the press release that he put out, so they won't be in place next week. We are requiring anyone who enters Chambers to wear masks for your safety and ours. We don't yet know when this will change, but hopefully when we've hit 70% of the population in Pennsylvania being vaccinated, that the masks can be lifted. You can take your mask off or pull it down when you speak at the podium so that we can hear you and understand you, but we would ask, and it is in our rules, that you put the mask on when you're walking back and when you're seated in the audience, and that goes for council members as well. The other thing I wanted to take a second to just highlight is in our rules, Article 5. Article 5 states that no person shall address council for more than 5 minutes unless extended by the council president. Persons addressing council shall state their name for the record and shall direct their comments to the chair. One of the things that you'll notice, and this was pre-pandemic, was the timer that we have, which makes it much more transparent when you're getting up to speak. It will count down from 5 minutes to 0. When it hits 0, your time will be over, and then you'll ask to be seated. So that is same rules that were in place before the pandemic. You'll notice on the podium there is a button, a green button, a yellow button, and a red button. So when it's green, it's your time to speak. When it blinks yellow, I think you have 2 minutes. When it's a solid yellow, 1 minute, and then when it's red, you don't have any time left. Also, under Article 5, Section 1, it says, no person, including members of council, shall use their time during citizens' participation to personally insult or attack any individual. Name-calling, profanity, racial or ethnic slurs, discriminatory remarks based on race, color, religion, national origin, ancestry or place of birth, sex, gender identity, sexual orientation, disability, marital status or age, or any other behavior that is inconsistent with the purpose and intent of conducting official business shall not be permitted. As you may have noticed, the tenor of public debate and meetings has become very disrespectful and heated throughout our country, unfortunately, and we will want to try to avoid that sort of behavior here in council chambers. We're here to listen to you because your voice is important, and that's the reason we're all sitting here, but at the same time, we have to conduct the business of the city and be respectful of one another and engage in meaningful public discourse. So we just want to make sure that that reminder is out there as we move forward and conduct ourselves in a respectful manner. The other thing I wanted to mention is Section 19 and 20. Any person who requests information from council during citizens' participation shall do so in writing and shall include the name of the person making the request. All requests for stop signs, street lights, street signs, safety signs, and traffic signs shall be made in writing and signed by the requesting party. All such requests will be acted upon by council. A majority of the council, in its sole and absolute discretion, shall determine whether to place such requests on the council agenda. We've been liberal with this in the past. You know, if you're coming up to ask a question on the agenda and we can answer it, we have no problem doing that. If you need information and you have a question that's more involved, then we would ask that you put it in writing, whether it's signing putting it down on a piece of paper and handing it to our city clerk or to Ms. Carrera or Ms. Herbster, just so that we keep a record of that in our office, which we do, and then we can try to track down an answer or track down that information for you. And that is all I have. Mr. Voldenberg?
Fourth order, citizens' participation.
I'd like to make a motion to accept public comment submitted in writing by Mr. John White.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. On the question? On the question, we did, just for this meeting, particularly because of the capacity limits and we weren't sure if we were going to get a big crowd or a small crowd, we wanted to make sure that the public had an opportunity to submit any comments in writing if they couldn't make it here or they were limited due to the capacity limits. So we did that. Mr. John White submitted a comment, so we're going to put that in the record and that will be reflected in the minutes of our meeting. Anyone else on the question? All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it and so moved. Mr. Voldenberg?
Fifth order, 5A motions.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, now we have to go to fourth order. We're used to being in Zoom. Okay, the first, we got to get out of the Zoom mode. Nobody will be freezing. There'll be no glitches tonight, which is nice. The first speaker is Joan Hodowanitz.
Joan Hodowanitz, Scranton. I'm very happy to be back. I'm not a fan of governance by virtual reality, but that was what we've lived with for 14 months. A lot of the citizens of Scranton are not tech savvy. I'm not tech savvy, but I choose not to be because I'm too cheap to pay for digital devices when I can get it for free at the library. However, many people buy digital devices and then they don't know how to access Zoom, or they don't know how to download a file or an app, and so on and so forth. The Scranton Public Library has a new service that is perfect for this pandemic season. It's called Tech Table. You can receive help with any of your digital devices from the library's computer lab instructor. This guy knows everything. And they have hours where you can walk in, you don't have to register, Monday and Wednesdays from 5 to 7 p.m., Thursdays and Fridays from 1 to 3 p.m., up at the Albright Memorial Library on the second floor. And the guy will walk you through any technical issue that you have. He will not talk over your head, he will not talk down to you. He will sit side by side with you, and you will get the money you paid for your device. You know, a lot of people spend big bucks on these things, and they don't know how to use them. Now, we won't do things like you drop your phone and you've cracked your screen. That's your problem, okay? This is how to use your technology. And this will help people be able to access meetings like this. So that's one thing. I was very pleased to see some of the recent articles in the Times Tribune. One was on Glynis Johns in PNC Bank, where the Black Scranton Project found a home in Providence, the old PNC Bank up there in Providence Square. And I gotta say, in the last 2 or 3 years, we've been very, very fortunate as a city, some of the talents that have come our way. Mayor Cognetti is one of them. Glynis Johns is another. Norma Jeffries, who is here tonight. We need to see more people like this. It's ironic, they're all female, but be that as it may, Dr. Rothchild, okay? We need more diversity participating in municipal government, and I just hope that everybody supports Glynis as she starts this Black Scranton Project in Providence Square, because I think it's part of our cultural heritage and it benefits everybody, especially with what we've gone through in the last year. Some of the things I saw recently I'm not too happy about, and one of them was an article on the city fixing a pipe without a permit. Now, I understand that people make mistakes, but the issue of permits and licenses is something that has been a bugbear for a number of years and was under a great deal of scrutiny before the pandemic hit. You know, we were looking at lips with great care. I don't understand how this could have happened last October, you know, that the pipe was installed, even if it was an emergency, without the proper permit, because there's a procedure for that. And next week, I will give you a written request for some information. I know you cannot tell me what kind of cost this is going to be to the city for having to fix this pipe that is the wrong size. That may cause some flooding upstream, according to DEP. But I will be asking in writing about what internal controls have we set up so that a thing like this does not happen again in the future. Things that require permits should be easily controlled. There should be a process that it doesn't happen again. And also starting next week, you're going to hear me asking what's going on with the 2020 audit. And I put that in writing, but you should expect me to ask for a status, because remember, the Home Rule Charter says it's due on May 30th, which is this Sunday, and I know we're not going to meet it, but I hope we meet the September deadline that they have promised. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Odawanitz. Tom Coyne?
Tom Gaughan, Manuka. I just wanted to come and talk to you today specifically after looking through a bunch of the regulations for putting referendums into action in the city of Scranton. Coming from Baltimore myself, as for my political activity during my life rather than with my father and all that he did in his political actions in Scranton, the referendum process in Scranton, I believe, requires not only 5 people to organize it, but it requires written referendum documentation that needs to go out and signed, and it's all done by physical paperwork. In Baltimore and in Pittsburgh and a number of the other municipalities and even other areas of the state, it is now acceptable to go out and create an electronic, though verifiable by name, address, social security number, whatever these referendum groups make, to make verifiable lists that you can put online and draw a referendum without having to knock on doors, and with having a confirmable list for changes that you want to bring before your city government. I think the paper referendums are a little bit old-fashioned and overburdened, and it does restrict the population's ability to petition their local government for changes by putting a barrier in their place. I would hope that sometime in the future, before a referendum has to be made to change how referendums are introduced, we look at the ability to present and provide an electronic request for a referendum and actually put that into policy and procedure for the city of Scranton. And second, recently we had referendums in the last vote for the governor's powers. The Pennsylvania voters ruled to restrict those powers to take away unlimited and unrestricted extensions and ability to invoke emergency powers by the governor. I have had an issue in the city of Scranton that the mayor, in her action, has put forward similar procedures, and council has, in example, in hiring, staffing, making changes on the fly, has requested clarification on this process, which was even done and written, but nothing was brought forward to council that was directive toward the question asked. The city charter allows city council to call the mayor before city council. That wasn't done. I look at city council's authority similar to the Senate in the legislature and the state government, as there are powers that are given to city council. And part of my disturbed feeling is if the mayor breaks a policy, the process should not be, you've broken the rules, we're going to send a severe letter to you to rebuke you not to do that again. If the rules and orders are broken for whatever reason, and the response is not forthcoming in a letter, the mayor should be called before this body for direct questioning to answer why procedures were not followed and be brought to accounting before council, who has the overseeing authority for that. Public safety is under the Home Rule Charter, is the confines of the city council. The mayor has the ability to enforce it, but city council is the one to create and direct all public safety procedures. Even under an emergency, the mayor does not have that power. I'm concerned about a lot of the acquiescence for the mayor extending these emergency orders or hiring well after the time periods involved, completely isolated from city council's input. That action by fiat is an antithesis to the Home Rule Charter and what this body was made for. I hope going forward it's addressed by this council so we don't shift into that. And I did not speak to this prior, purely for the reason before the election, I did not want to throw too much smoke onto a topic that may have gone away by election changing people who were in charge of the body. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Quinn. Les Spindler?
Good evening, Council. Les Spindler, city resident, homeowner. Well, I want to welcome everybody back. It's nice to be here. Hope everybody's been safe over the last 14 months. It's great to be back. First, I want to talk about an ongoing problem which I live near. The railroad bridge on Main Avenue, right off of Euclid Avenue. Trucks keep getting stuck under there all the time. As a matter of fact, one got stuck under there again today. About a month ago, one was coming down Main Avenue and saw that he couldn't make it, and he turned up Dorothy Street, ended up going over Rebecca to the corner I live on Bulwer Street. He couldn't make the turn and clipped the telephone pole. And he tore the street sign off the pole, and DPW came and took just the one to the Bulwer Street sign, and he never came or returned it to put it back up. So I don't know whose department DPW is. If you can maybe talk to them and see if we can get that sign back.
What was the street, Rebecca? and-
Corner of Bulwer and North Rebecca. Yeah, the Rebecca sign's still there. The Bulwer Street sign, they took it and never brought it back. But I have a suggestion. I don't know if it could be done. People going north, the direction that truck was going, if they turned up Dorothy Street, there's a turnaround at the end of Dorothy Street, but it's Emiliani's trucking turnaround, so I don't know if they would be acceptable to that, but if they could put a sign on Main Avenue telling these trucks that they could turn around at the end of Dorothy Street, because they're not allowed in the rest of the neighborhood. There's signs there. Dorothy Street is the only street they can go up and down. That's where Emiliani's trucks go. So, like I said, maybe the city could talk to Emiliani and see if these trucks could use their turnaround. Moving on. Article last week in the paper about council voting down against joining the Pennsylvania Safety Alliance. And they just cut out one little paragraph in there I wanted to read. It says, the organization is a nonprofit promoting sensible, evidence-based firearm policies aiming at saving lives and preventing injury. Now, with all the gun violence and mass shootings that we've had in this country the last couple of months, and yesterday there was one, why would you vote against something to promote safety?
Do you want me to answer that?
Yes.
Yeah. There's a few reasons. Number one, it was very hard to find enough information about the group. If you go on their website, I think they're almost a startup. They've only been around for a few months. So that was number one. When the legislation was originally sent down to us, Mr. Spindler, there was no backup, really no backup at all, no explanation. Then one did come. So that was one concern. The second concern is, I think everyone on council agrees with gun safety. What I personally don't want to see is that every time a cause comes up, council's joining different groups, and I don't think, this is just me personally, I don't think that's our place. Like, we're here to conduct the business of the city. Next week, are we going to tackle abortion and then the death penalty? It just, that's my own feeling on it. I agree 100% with gun safety. I have my own views on it, but there was no teeth to that legislation. There's nothing that could be done to affect the laws in Pennsylvania. That would be the state legislature. So that's the reason I voted against it, not because I don't agree with gun safety.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, like, we agree with everything that was in that statement, right? But it was, how do you do that? And there was no specifics to how this group was going to advocate to do that. So it was just too vague and broad for me personally.
Okay. I only have a minute left, so I want to get going. Personally, I'm totally against guns. I think that the gun laws in the Constitution should be rewritten. When they were written, they didn't have the guns that we have today. Nobody should have an AR-15 or an AK-47, except they're military weapons. Nobody should have them. All right, lastly, watching the news tonight, and the state of Pennsylvania and the rest of the country is doing great with the COVID cases. Pennsylvania, for the last 3 days, have been under 1,000 cases which is great compared to how it used to be. And Lackawanna County today was one case. They said we haven't been that low since August. So I urge everybody, I mean, my wife and I, we got our shots, very safe, no problem. And I urge everybody that didn't get their shots to please get it, because we're going in the right direction. And that maybe we could open everything up and have picnics this summer and La Festa and everything. I see my time is up. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night. That exhausts the sign-in sheet, the speaker sign-in sheet. Would anyone else like to address council?
Good evening, Council. Dave Dobson, resident, taxpayer. I don't know if you noticed, but there's an FV on my mask, and what that stands for is fully vaccinated, but I'm not going to take it off right now because you can hear me just fine. And it's in protest against the people that think that vaccines are hooey. It's a rotten shame that people are not showing up for their vaccine. I'd like to share some of my experiences on a ventilator. It wasn't for COVID, but when I came to after a surgery, I was so distressed, I dropped out. I didn't care. And they had to revive me. And, you know, all night, I woke up and I felt like I had swallowed a hot charcoal or something. And I would bite down on the tube, shut off the air, sound an alarm. And this orderly or physician's assistant, whatever, would come in with the big syringe and say, "You need to be sedated." And good, I'm going to heaven again. Get me out of this hell. The second time, not too many problems. But the third time, I almost choked because my throat was strained. So you really don't want to wind up in a hospital. I mean, there's all types of people that I seen a marathon runner, a lady, and she couldn't walk a couple of blocks, and that was weeks after and months after. It was 3 months, I think it was, that she came on the news and was discussing it. And she could only walk maybe 10 blocks. A marathon runner, 26 miles. That's a lot of blocks. That's well over 130 blocks or 150 blocks, city blocks. On the other news, there's in certain states, there's a lot of, and Pennsylvania is one with the legislature, voter suppression. They're starting to come up with all kinds of insane rules. And by and large, I was happy with the election. Actually, we disposed of a problem. And call your representatives and senators, and in all haste support federal regulation of U.S. elections in the territories and states. It's a crime to vote illegally. You could get about 3 years for it. Somebody got caught down in Wyoming. He tried to sign up for his son, another guy, his dead mother, and he got 5 years probation, but some poor lady that was on parole in Texas tried it, and she got 5 years. I bet you can't guess what color she was in Texas. You know, I don't support that. She should have just been told to leave, or she filed a provisional vote. Furthermore, if they had a camera there and put you on file when they hand you your ballot, you'd be positively identified as voting, and they could go back on it, and they don't know how you voted. That's what they do in the hospitals when you go. Take your picture. And on the gun control business, I agree in a sense that we can't have a gun control law for every city. We just can't have it. You can't drive from Scranton through Dunmore and then hit Troop or Oliphant or Jessup, and on the way to a gun range, there's one up on Salem Mountain out of Archibald, and get arrested for what you have in your trunk, you know. Furthermore, there are gun safes, so a lot of these school shootings are parents leaving easily accessible guns around the house and all kinds of exotic firearms. They should be secured and immediately. And personally, I think it's time to hold some of the parents responsible for this when they give such easy access. I mean, if they wreck your car, it's your problem. They weren't licensed. Thank you.
Thank
See
you,
you
Mr.
next
Dobson.
week, maybe.
Thank you. Ms. Schumacher?
In reviewing the Controller's report, I was happy to learn that ECTV has received half of the annual amount budgeted for ECTV's activities, so that was good news. Mr. Donahue, I believe you are the correct member to address DPW. So I have two questions for you. One, how long will it take to complete the PennDOT recommendations for increasing the safety of Harrison Avenue? I am really looking forward to the line of sight increasing, especially at Gibson and Harrison. And, but I believe when the signage has been installed, may I suggest that you notify the police so that their code enforcer can give tickets if necessary till people get the idea that we're serious about it and people want to see. And then next, has there been any indication the city will be expected to pay for all or a portion of the damage to the in-ground pool on Yard Avenue as a result of the repair of the underground pipe of Leech Creek last fall?
I don't have either answer off the top of my head, but I will get back to you on that.
Okay. What procedure does DPW have in place for monitoring the leachate line that runs through Green Ridge?
I don't believe DPW has any procedure. That's American Water.
There is none?
I don't believe so, but let me get.
I know there
don't quote
there
me,
are water, indications that water or let's say a liquid is going through that. So
Yes.
I think they should investigate that. Now, while on the subject of water, has the city ever received the final report from HRG on stormwater?
No, we have not received a final report.
Has the city ever set a date for making the decision on whether or not there will be a stormwater authority?
To my knowledge, no.
We have moved into the season when precipitation is no longer snow that melts slowly, but rain that causes households to be flooded. Just the last weeks, it's been Froude Avenue and Brook Avenue on East Mountain, and did not hear anything from the Kaiser Valley, from the Dewey, Jackson, Merrifield area, but I know there was Emmett Street, I believe you spoke of, and it's just going to continue. And at some point, I think DPW is going to make us do that. It would be nice if we could get moving, especially since the, I forget what that $69.9 million gift the city received that from their grandchildren's future taxes via the federal government. Since that covers stormwater, I emphatically request that council ensure that a sizable chunk goes to stormwater. It is really time to step up to the plate. And I know there are still people out there who have health conditions that cannot risk going out and coming into a COVID person. And so I think you should extend the ability to submit a fourth order input until this thing is at 70% or more. And then finally, I would have a request that you include minutes from the Mayor's Tax Policy Group in the third order, if that is possible. Okay.
I don't know if they take minutes at those meetings.
They do.
Okay, Kyle,
I'll request that tomorrow.
Okay, thank you very much.
thank you. Would anyone else like to address council? Okay, Mr. Voldenberg?
5A motions.
Thank you. Councilman Schuster, do you have any motions or comments tonight?
So just one comment. I did receive another email about the stormwater and drainage on West Mountain. So I know Mr. Donahue has reached out to the flood control with DPW, so I hope that they'll be in for the future for a caucus meeting to discuss that and start on a plan for that. That's all.
Thank you. Councilman McAndrew, any motions or comments tonight?
I have a couple. So, a concerned resident reached out to me. She owns a property on Main Avenue in West Scranton, next to a business, and she pays for a handicap sign in front of her house. But her question to me is, and she got conflicting answers from the people she reached out to at City Hall and the police department. So, if she pays $10 a year, is there any way she can get that sign or make that sign become a resident-only sign? Because everybody keeps parking. I heard that there is. I don't know if it's true or not, but I heard that that's a possibility. So I said I would ask, and that's why I'm asking. If, Mr. Voldenberg or if someone here can respond.
Yeah, no, that's for handicap parking?
Right.
Yeah, it's my understanding that, and I could be wrong, and you could double check on this, but if someone has a handicap parking, like a parking tag, they can park there. That handicap parking placard does not, unfortunately, give you the ability to park, although it makes sense, but to park right in front of your house, because this has come up before.
Okay.
And so I don't think you can make it into like a residential
Resident-only.
type thing, but you can double check, but that's my understanding.
All right, so please, if you can double check for that for me, just so I can respond to this citizen. Also, Mrs. Hodowanich talked about permits, and someone else reached out to me. And it's a question I don't have the answer for because I was on the school board for 6 years, but the question was, do schools, or even a CTC where I work, have to pay for permits? I mean, they understand they have to pull them, they understand they have to be inspected, but do they have to pay for permits for renovations because they're both tax collecting entities in the same city? I understand the inspection piece. I understand they require a permit. I'm just asking, a question that I couldn't answer. Maybe we can find out or clarify that, please. And then also, so over on West Side, I saw some great things this week. So after proposing Scranton's very own Hometown Hero Banners program at a council meeting last year, I was happy to see this come to fruition. This was piloted this week in West Scranton through the collaboration of Todd Polsey of NeighborWorks and Leadership Lackawanna. They piloted 30 banners. There's going to be a little ceremony this Saturday at 11 o'clock. And Mr. Gattens over in Southside is spearheading his own program with banners, which is great. And he has, tonight between 6 and 8 at the community room at Naog Park, located adjacent to the pool, they're handing out applications explaining the process, answering questions, and also this Thursday. So I look forward when there are banners displayed throughout the city for all of our hometown heroes, because Leadership Lackawanna only took this on as a core project. They'll be handing this off to the city, after Memorial Day. I don't know how far after. I met a couple times with the city, so there's logistic pieces that we're looking at. Maybe we get more involvement from the veterans groups, which I believe we should. But also, like I said, Mr. Gattens took it upon himself, which is great, to get Southside up and running. Maybe that's the something we'll have to do as a whole, because it's a large city. You drive through Taylor, there's 10 banners, but and the excitement of all this throughout the city that people want to recognize, and we should, our own hometown heroes. So that is all I have right now.
Thank you. Dr. Rothchild, any motions or comments tonight?
No, none at this time, thank you.
Thank you. And Councilman Donahue, any motions or comments?
No, nothing at this time.
Thank you. Okay, I have a few. Welcome back, everyone. It's great to be in council chambers. As I said at the top of the meeting, it's been a surreal experience the last year trying to do all this over Zoom, but we did make it work, and I want to thank our office for all that they did in making sure that the transition was somewhat seamless. And I'm very proud of the fact that we were one of the first councils, I think, in the state that went directly to Zoom and really went off without a hitch. So I want to welcome everyone back and hope everyone's safe. I do have a few things that I'd like to start with. So I want to officially welcome Frank Voldenberg, who is our new city clerk, if you haven't noticed. We did make that announcement a couple weeks ago, but it's our first meeting back in chambers. So, and I also want to welcome Allison Herbster, who started with our office a few weeks ago. So I want to welcome the both of them. I do have a few items, citizens' complaints who've reached out to me. The first one was an older gentleman who lives on Pike Street, and he wrote us a letter about Pike Street not being paved in over 30 years. He is an older gentleman, and in the letter he said all he wants is to drive on a paved street before he dies. So, Mr. Voldenberg, if you could try to make that happen, I would appreciate it. Reach out to DPW. The second issue that was brought up in the caucus was the pools. We would like an update on which pools are going to be open, what maintenance has to be done to the pools. Usually by this time we would have received some sort of notification on which pool was going to be open. We know that Naog pool is not going to be. And I do know that the city has started to hire lifeguards, so I'm assuming there is going to be a pool open, but we just don't know which one. So, Mr. Voldenberg, if you can reach out on that matter, I would appreciate it. Also, number 3, last year or the year before, I can't remember, I had talked about a park ambassador program for our parks in the city of Scranton. God bless you.
God bless.
And the mayor at that time put out a survey, I think, of some sort, and was collecting information from residents on whether or not they would be interested in that sort of program. So, Mr. Voldenberg, if we can check on that, if that's taking off at some point. The other thing I wanted to speak about tonight, I'm actually very disturbed after being out at Leggett Street, Leggett's Creek, and Leach Creek. Ms. Schumacher brought up flooding tonight. I have never in all my years on council seen anything quite like this. The only thing that may rival it is the issues over on Wyoming Avenue with Mr. Young. I was out within the last 2 or 3 weeks on Leggett Street and up on Yard Avenue with the nice woman who lives up there who had her backyard ruined and her in-ground pool ruined. And the devastation and the situation there is really unbelievable. It's hard to describe without actually seeing it and the things that have actually gone on there over the last few years. So when I was out there, the neighbors had explained to me, and you have to understand that the people that live here have lived there almost their whole entire lives, 60, 70, 80 years, sometimes even further than that. And they explained that really what's going on here is the debris that is in the creek. And I saw it firsthand with my own eyes that the debris has kind of piled up in the creek, and it's making a situation where the water flow doesn't go like it used to. Now, according to one neighbor, the woman who lives on Yard Avenue, the last time that the DPW was out in Leach Creek was in the mid-2000s to dredge it or to clear out the debris, whatever term you want to use. Over time, the banks have degraded to the point where they're down way lower than they ever have been. I was told by our DPW director that a FEMA project is going to take place somewhere around the Rockwell Avenue Bridge. And that the DEP was also going to issue a permit to DPW to shore up the banks where Leach Creek runs into Leggett's Creek, but they were told that they can't build it any higher than it already is. The disturbing part for me was in speaking to a representative from the DEP who told me that they will not under any circumstances, authorize the city to go into Leggett's Creek or Leech Creek along Yard Avenue. And they're claiming that there are no obstructions there. And I find that hard to believe because I was out there and I saw it with my own eyes. And if you ask the neighbors, they'll tell you that as well. The gentleman from DEP also stated that they would never authorize the banks to be built up along Leggett's Creek. And basically said that the people built their homes in a floodplain, and it is what it is. And there's really, he told the one woman that they can't fix anything here. I will not accept that as an answer. These people that have lived on Leggett Street have lived there their whole entire lives. They couldn't sell their homes if they wanted to, which everybody here understands. It's common sense. They have nowhere to go. Couldn't get out if they wanted to. And they're being told by the DEP, nothing we can do here. The gentleman told me, and he's probably, I'm not disputing what he's saying, because he's probably right, that they would not invest in fixing the banks or make an investment down there because there's not enough homes. There's not enough homes. So he did tell that to the woman on Leggett's Creek, and obviously, the neighbors are upset, and I would be too. So what I would like done, first of all, I want to see this in writing. Let's do an analysis of Leggett's Creek and Leech Creek, why these properties are constantly getting flooded. They have to hold their breath every time there's a downpour, every time it rains heavy. So I would like an analysis of what's going on there, and I want to see a report, and I want to see it in writing. I'd like a letter to go out to the DPW asking for a report on what work has been done, if any, on Leech Creek and Leggett's Creek and what the plan is to mitigate the flooding that has been occurring there and affecting these residents. To the DPW's credit, I did meet with the mayor and Mr. Parambo out there at Leggett's Creek, and I know they've been out to the home on Yard Avenue. And I spoke to Mr. Parambo today, and they stated that they would do anything as long as they could get approval from the DEP. And they are going to do some things, but it's not fixing the actual problem that's going on here, I don't believe. I would like a letter also sent to DEP asking them why they are refusing to allow crews to go into the creek to clear out debris that, according to the neighbors, is most likely causing the issues here. And I'd also like to reach out to Senator Casey and soon-to-be Senator Flynn, and I know Senator Flynn's, State Senator Flynn is already aware of this because his office is involved, but I'd like to get a paper trail on this and get them involved in it. To me, when I hear that nothing can be done to put those people in that situation where this woman, these people, every time it rains, every time they get flooded, this lady had to spend $2,500 to get her basement cleaned out, lost a washer, lost a dryer, and to hear, well, they shouldn't have built their homes there. That's just unacceptable, totally unacceptable. There has to be a way that we can help them. There has to be a way. And if there's not a way, we have to find a way. Because there's no way in good conscience that I can allow this to go. First of all, I live by these people, number one. And number two, what if it was me? What if it was you? The answer that, well, we can't do anything, or we're not going to do anything, we won't issue, the DEP won't issue a permit, that's just not going to fly with me. So I do want to see something done on this. Mr. Hayes and Mr. Voldenberg, if you could draft a letter, let's get this process started. And we need to move quickly because, like I said, they've been told in the past. In fact, this woman told me in the past someone had actually said to her, you shouldn't have built your house here. There's nothing we can do. It's supposed to flood down here. I mean, that's just absurd. I think, my own personal opinion, I'm not an engineer, I'm not the smartest man in the world, but the banks degrading over the years, the fact that the creek has not been maintained, the debris has been allowed to build up there, that's the reason that all of a sudden it's just gotten really, really bad. So again, I want to thank the DPW for doing what they have been doing and meeting down there and trying to help the people, but we need the DEP to step up to the plate, and I think we're going to need state and federal assistance. And I don't want to hear that just because there's 3 or 4 houses down there, we can't help you. There has to be. They pay their taxes every year, and they don't have a way out, so we have to help them. And that's all I have this week. Thank you.
(5B) For introduction, an ordinance authorizing the sale and issuance of the City of Scranton's General Obligation Note, Series of 2021, and direct the incurring of non-electoral debt through the issuance of a general obligation note to the City of Scranton Lackawanna County, Pennsylvania, in the principal amount of $3,210,000 for the purpose of providing funds to finance the costs of the refunding of the city's outstanding general obligation note, series of 2002, and the cost and expenses of issuing the note, stating the purpose of the project, directing the proper officers of the governing body to prepare, certify, and file the required debt statement and borrowing base certificate, covenanting that the city shall include the amount of annual debt service in its budget for each fiscal year, providing for a fully registered note, interest payment dates, provisions for redemption, and stated principal maturity amounts, and fixing the rate of interest on such note, authorizing the proper officers of the city to contract with a bank or bank and trust company for its services as sinking fund depository, paying agent, and registrar, and stating a covenant as to payment of principal and interest without deduction for certain taxes, providing for the registration, transfer, and exchange of note, providing for the execution, delivery, and authentication of note, and the disposition of the proceeds thereof, approving the form of the note, paying agent's authentication certificate and assignment, awarding such note at negotiated sale and stating that such sale is in the best financial interest of the city, creating a sinking fund and appropriating annual amounts for the payment of debt service on the note, authorizing and directing the proper officers of the city to certify and to file with the Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development certified copies of the necessary proceedings, covenanting that the proceeds of the note shall not be used in such a manner as to cause the note to be an arbitrage note under federal tax law provisions, making certain representations under federal tax law provisions, approving the undertaking of certain continuing disclosure, authorizing and directing the proper officers of the city to do all things necessary to carry out the ordinance, authorizing and directing the proper officers of the city to pay issuance costs, repealing all inconsistent ordinances, providing for severability of provisions, and stating the effective date.
This time I'll entertain a motion that item 5B be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question? On the question, Mr. Deely, our business administrator, and PFM, the city's financial advisor, will be coming next week to discuss this agenda item. I did have a few questions on it, but just to go through it, basically the city is refunding the city's outstanding general obligation note from 2002. The lowest interest rate was from M&T Bank at 1.710%. And the reason for this is the market conditions and the overall strength of the city's credit was conducive at this point to refinancing. So according to the backup here, the city's going to save roughly $388,689 over the life of the note compared to what's been budgeted. So I just had a question about the new money portion of the debt. So what capital projects are those dollars being used for and why? There's not really an explanation of that in the backup. And that's all I have. Anyone else on the question? All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it and so moved.
Sixth order, 6A, reading by title, file of the council number 71, 2021, an ordinance establishing a no parking zone designating the northerly side of Vine Street from the easterly curb line of Costello Court, 85 feet easterly on the northerly side of Vine Street, and placement of the following signs. 3, R8-3 no parking symbol signs, 12-inch by 12-inch. 1 with R-301 no parking left arrow plaque. 1 left arrow plaque. 1 with R-301 no parking arrow plaque, and 1 with R-301 no parking right arrow plaque.
You've heard reading by title of item 6A. What is your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I move that item 6A pass reading by title.
Second.
On the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it and so moved.
Seventh order, 7A, for consideration by the Committee on Finance for adoption, file of the Council number 70, 2021, amending file of the Council number 95, 2015, an ordinance entitled amending file of the Council number 79 of 2015, an ordinance amending file of the Council number 145 of 2007, entitled an ordinance renaming the Emergency and Municipal Services Tax to Local Services Tax, and by imposing a withholding of $52 for the calendar year 2015, and the same shall remain in full force and effect annually thereafter by increasing the local services tax withholding from $52 to $156 for the calendar year 2015, and providing for an exemption from taxation for any person whose total earned income and net products from all sources within the municipality is less than $15,600 for the calendar year 2015. Under and pursuant to the Local Tax Enabling Act, Act 511 of 1965, PL 1257, 53 PS, Section 6924.101 et sec, and the Municipalities Recovery Act, Act 47 of 1987, PL 246, 53 PS, Section 11701.101 et sec, and their respective amendments. Effective retroactive to January 1, 2021, this tax enables the City of Scranton to continue to levy the local services tax at the fiscal year 2020 rate for fiscal year 2021 for a total maximum local services rate of $156 for the fiscal year 2021, effective retroactive to January 1, 2021.
What is the recommendation of the chairperson for the Committee on Finance?
As chairperson for the Committee on Finance, I recommend final passage of item 7A.
Second.
On the question? Roll call, please.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild?
Yes.
Mr. Donahue?
Yes.
Mr. Gaughan?
Yes, I hereby declare item 7A legally and lawfully adopted.
7B, for consideration by the Committee on Rules for adoption, Resolution Number 169, 2021, authorizing reappointment of Mario Savinelli, 500 North Cameron Avenue, Scranton, Pennsylvania, 18504, as a member of the Board of the Scranton Redevelopment Authority for an additional 5-year term. Mr. Savinelli's prior term expired on February 4th, 2021, and was held over. Mr. Savinelli's new term will be effective May 3rd, 2021, and will expire on February 4th, 2026.
As chairperson for the Committee on Rules, I recommend final passage of item 7B.
Second.
On the question? Roll call, please.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild?
Yes.
Mr. Donahue?
Yes.
Mr. Gaughan?
Yes, I hereby declare item 7B legally and lawfully adopted.
7C, for consideration by the Committee on Rules for adoption, Resolution Number 170, 2021, adopting the Lackawanna County Hazard Mitigation Plan 2021 update as the Hazard Mitigation Plan for the City of Scranton.
As chairperson for the Committee on Rules, I recommend final passage of item 7C.
Second.
On the question? Roll call, please.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild?
Yes.
Mr. Donahue?
Yes.
Mr. Gaughan?
Yes, I hereby declare item 7C legally and lawfully adopted.
7D, for consideration by the Committee on Rules for adoption, Resolution Number 171, 2021, amending Resolution Number 1, 2020, entitled Adopting the Rules and Order of Business of the Scranton City Council, Scranton, Pennsylvania, by amending the rules as attached hereto as Exhibit A.
As chairperson for the Committee on Rules, I recommend final passage of item 7D.
Second.
On the question? Roll call, please.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild?
Yes.
Mr. Donahue?
Yes.
Mr. Gaughan?
Yes, I hereby declare item 7D legally and lawfully adopted.
Eighth order, old business.
Thank you. Before we adjourn, I just want to wish everyone a safe Memorial Day weekend. And on Monday, of course, which is Memorial Day, I want to thank all of our veterans in our city, in our county, state, and country who gave the ultimate sacrifice. If there's no further business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
This meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Couple bumps.
No, you're awesome.